YouTube! He's back!
I'm back!
I'd like to build the world a home and finish it with...
Now I'm well aware that these Doctor Who videos tend to have quite a specific audience that don't watch the rest of my content, so that's a reference that's gone over most people's heads, but don't worry about it. Exciting news is Emperor Davros is back. He has returned. Context. So back in March of 2012, there was a set released in Forbidden Planet. It was Emperor Davros and a destroyed Dalek, and the scale of these action figures that I collect. We all know the Doctor Who figures. They have occupied my life since 2006. But yeah, Emperor Davros and a destroyed Dalek. And back then, I was a student. I had quite a limited budget. I could only get select things, and sometimes there'd be multiple things out at once. I could only pick and choose, you know, I could get maybe like 4 or 5 sets a year. So I had to pick which one. I'd be really, really selective. I missed out on Revenge Cybermen. I missed out on the Remembrance Dalek set 4. I mentioned that last year. I finally got the re-release versions of all of them now, but I missed that one. I had to really be picky and say, okay, this set takes priority over this set because it's got this. And basically, Emperor Davros was amazing. I loved him. But I had a Davros figure already. In fact, I had a Terry Malloy Davros figure specifically, and the other figure in the set was a destroyed Dalek, and I was like, well, that's quite whatever the price was, like £25. Not really that much, but for me at the time it was quite a lot. Hard to justify for 2 figures when really one of them isn't a figure at all. And I passed on that, and I got, I don't know, was that when I got the Brigadier set with the Claws of Axos? Maybe. Or the 3 Doctors with the Gel Guard. I got something else instead anyway. Then pretty much regretted it ever since because Emperor Davros became impossible to find. The original version sold out, second hand, super expensive. It was just, and the worst of it was, we had word from above, Al Duar, basically saying that they'd lost parts of the mould that they made Emperor Davros out of, so it was impossible to reissue him in the same way that a lot of the classic figures that I missed had been re-released, because like I said, I've gotten a lot of these things on reissue. The Tomb Cyber Controller, it's another one. You know, all these Daleks, loads and loads of Daleks now. You know, the classics on Tarans, it's another one. I missed them first time round. But Emperor Davros, as far as we were aware, that wasn't going to be coming back. Except recently, we found out, I think my understanding is, they found the pieces. I don't think they've made new pieces. And unfortunately, I don't have the original to compare if the sculpt is the same as the old one. But as far as I can tell, it's just the same figure reissued with improvements. And as I've said, I don't have the original one, so I can't do a side-by-side comparison. But I have seen plenty of pictures of the original one, so I can sort of make a little assessments as to things that they've changed. Predominantly, the most noticeable thing when you get them in hand is, much as a lot of these figures recently, they've been casting the figures in the colour that they're meant to be, and then painting on details, like casting them in the main colour of plastic and painting the details on, instead of casting them in some random colour like dark grey and then painting everything. And I personally, I love that. I'm a big fan of that. It just makes it, there's less sort of room for paint bleed. And the paintwork on this is really immaculate. It's really nice and crisp. So basically, it's cast. The body is cast in this creamy, very light cream plastic with details painted on in gold. The window in his little thingy, that's a little plastic disc, a circle embedded into a circle sort of indentation on the inside, and then there's a hexagon hole cut on the outside, so it looks through that, so that sort of holds it in place, and you can look through it. And then the dome lights are also cast in clear plastic and painted gold partly, and then the transparent bits are transparent. But I think the thing that really sets them apart from the previous version is inside, and I'm well aware that my camera is, well, the lighting isn't great here, so what I'm going to do, while I talk, I'm going to show you a selection of pictures of him, just from various angles and various close-ups. But the way that they painted the face, the original figure was pretty much the standard Terry Malloy Davros as he was painted in the figure from Resurrection of the Daleks, sort of a fairly sort of fleshy tone. But this version is this sort of sickly green. He's got this sort of dribbly dark stuff coming down the side of his mouth. And it's far more accurate to how he's portrayed in the episode. He's sort of inside the body. It's the same sort of mask shape, but it's that sort of different colour. And it looks, I mean, it just looks amazing. You're hopefully seeing in some of these pictures what I mean. The other thing is they've painted the wires on his body. Again, the body is cast in a solid sort of dark grey with a very faint lighter grey wash. And then a couple of the cables, some of the blue and the thick red one and the thick yellow one have been sort of picked out in paint. But otherwise, he's more or less sort of unpainted, and I think that's just, it's a lot cleaner. The other one had a million different colours, and it's probably more accurate, but it's not, it just doesn't look super nice. The painting was very untidily done on the old one. It's a lot cleaner on this one. The cables on his head, they're cast in single colour plastic. There's a slight translucency to them, which is quite nice. The bit at the back of his head, compared to previous classic Davros's, is painted silver instead of blue. The microphone is a unique piece to his microphone that he had on the previous figure. I've got the previous figure here. I'm going to be showing you these later on, so you'll get a look at them. But yeah, this is a different microphone, and like I said, obviously different torso piece with the cable sculpted on. The inside of the dome, the inside's gold. So you see it's the so yeah, that's a kind of a little sort of quick overview of this Davros. I love him, honestly. Easily one of my favourite figures. I'm so glad I've got him now, because like I thought this is one I thought I was never going to have. Like Personal Ball Davros is. Do you know what it is? I like the sort of action feature. You can open and close this. I think that really does it for me. But yeah, I'm just like super happy to finally have this after, you know, I thought I'd miss out on him forever. It's one of my biggest collecting regrets. At time of recording, this hasn't been announced yet, but if you're seeing this, it has been announced and is now available in the shops. I'm super happy. There are 2 sets in this year's B&M Waves, and this is one of them. The other one is the Daleks from Resurrection of the Daleks. I don't have those yet. I'm going to have to go buy those myself. So if I can do that in a timely enough manner, I'll make a video. You might have noticed, because last year, I never used to do these reviews at all. And last year I had the Sonic Screwdriver, and I did a review of that, just because I thought, well, you know, that's very topical, it's very current, it's just been nice. And people seem to really enjoy it, so I was like, well, okay, if I've got these figures early enough, I'll make a video and let people... And it seems to be general interest in me talking about them. So I was, you know, making videos for the things. The reason that we didn't have... This is the first video reviewing Doctor Who figures I've done this year. And I got the Fugitive Doctor, and I got the Movellans, but when they were announced, I was kind of caught off guard. I didn't have any money set aside for them. By the time I did, and I'd bought them, they'd been out for ages, and I thought, well, these videos are really time sensitive. If I don't strike while the iron's hot, people are going to lose interest and not tune in. So, I mean, I think people are only interested in hearing what I have to say about these figures while they're still... You know, before they have them themselves. It was once they've got them themselves, they can make their own opinion, and then, who cares what I've got to say. But since I've just got the one figure to talk about, and, you know, amazing though he is, there's only so much you can say about him, I thought it'd be fun just to show you my other Davroses. Davrai? Because I now have 5 Davros figures. I've got sort of 4 proper and then 1 kind of... So, we've met Emperor Davros. Other Davroses I mentioned earlier in the video that I have another Terry Malloy Davros. This is the one from Resurrection of the Daleks. They did make a figure from Revelation of the Daleks. They're very, very similar. Main differences being this hand is swappable because he gets his hand shot off, and you can replace it with like a bandaged stump with green blood in it. And the other key difference is the microphone on the Revelation version is on the other side. Which is kind of weird, because that's the only story where his microphone is on that side. But otherwise, they're pretty much identical. I got this figure way, way back in the summer of 2011. I think he was released in 2010, because I'm sure I remember being on the Doctor Who action figure forum talking about this while I was in school still. So possibly this figure was around for about like a year before I got him. For a very long time, this was my only Davros figure. Because further back than that, back in 2008, when it was the classic line was just starting out and I was mostly collecting new series figures, one of the figures I really wanted was Davros from Stolen Earth Journey's End. My original plan, I generally, like at Christmas, I'd ask for, you know, whatever figures like took my fancy, and that year it was Davros and the Red Supreme Dalek from that story, and I didn't end up getting either of those things because Woolworths was going under and they had a big sale, and I ended up getting the TARDIS playset, which had been like heavily reduced. I hadn't got that before. It was like one of the things I'd most wanted when it was released like 2 years earlier. So I got that instead. So arguably, that's far more exciting. I would have been terrible if I'd never gotten that. It's that's an amazing thing. But I never got Julian Bleach Davros until 2020. B&M, that's another one that I got on the re-release through B&M. They did a couple of sets. There was Davros supposedly from Magician's Apprentice, which is familiar, although it's really just the Journey's End one again, because in Magician's Apprentice the mask is different. This is basically, it's just a reissue of the, but it's, you know, it's the same actor. I'm happy enough to just say this is Julian Bleach Davros. He came with this figure of Peter Capaldi with the checky trousers, and they also had a set with an Imperial Dalek and Ace. I got that as well at the same time. So that was 2020, so COVID era, sort of late 2020. I got that, so it was almost like a decade after I got Terry Malloy. And like I said, he's just Journey's End Davros in a box that says Magician's Apprentice, which is familiar. But for a B&M set, they're not going to cast a subtly different Julian Bleach head. That would have been ridiculous. I mean, they do new heads for them, but like, why would they do that? And then the year before last, so just before I started making these sort of semi-regularly, we had another figure that I really, really wanted from the early 2010s but had missed, reissued in B&M, and that was the Michael Wisher Davros. And yeah, I never got this. I could afford one of the Davros sets. I picked the Resurrection set because I thought the Daleks were the most interesting selection of Daleks, with the black and white Dalek and the... I thought, out of the Doctors in all the various sets, the Peter Davison one was the one that most interested me, because it was, at that point, the only Series 21 jumper and shirt figure that we'd had of Peter Davison, so I was like, I'll get that one. But my favourite version of Davros is Genesis, it's Michael Wisher. And the one thing I didn't particularly like about that original figure was the face. The wash was a bit weak, but this one, they again, it doesn't really show up that well on camera, unfortunately. They upped the wash a bit. It's he's got more sort of texture and colour detail to him, and yeah, I finally got Michael Wisher. So I've got the 3 Davros actors. I've got at least one figure of each of them, but that's 4 Davrai, and I said I had 5 because when I was sent this, I also got this, which to the naked eye on this poor camera quality looks like the same figure again. It's a reissue Davros, except this one here is ever so slightly subtly different to this one. And not because it's the original one, because that was what I wondered at first. So basically, this is, to my understanding, an early paintwork prototype. I've got a few of these. The Daleks I did last year, the 2 Daleks, the new series ones, it turned out that they were paint application prototypes that I was sent by accident. So I reviewed those figures. The figures that turned up in the shops were quite different to the ones I was reviewing, so I'm not sure if I ever made a revision to that, or like a sort of postscript saying this. Those 2 Daleks in my review were not what you ended up getting, so whoopsie. But this is basically the same idea. This is an early test with a few subtle differences. I'm going to put up a picture just now of the 2 side by side to see, because on camera I don't think you can really see the difference in the wash between the 2 faces. The prototype one is more matte, it's slightly lighter. I think I like it slightly better than what they ended up with, but it's, you know, the difference is subtle, but it is noticeable in person. The other differences are most noticeably probably these translucent orange bits on his chair, just here. On this one, they're painted in opaque orange. The other thing is there's a couple of metallic orange buttons on the front of his console there, just the outer 2 buttons. And on this one, they're painted less metallic. It's a more sort of bright, jaunty orange. How obvious is it that this is a pickup shot? I forgot to mention earlier. So yeah, one other thing I think is kind of interesting about these two Davros figures is the microphone. On the prototype version, it's white on the outside, focus, and silver at the tip. See that? White, then silver. My nails are needing done. On the final produced figure, the microphone is silver on the outside and white on the tip. Why? I guess one of those is more accurate than the other. Given that this is a pickup, I could have gone back and checked that. I didn't. That's the main difference between these two. That more or less are the same figure. Apart from that, they are different to both of these to the original 2010 figure. In that the cables on the top of the head are grey, on the original figure they're blue, and these orange panels on the original one were more like a yellow colour. So I just think that's kind of interesting. I thought since we had a bit of time, I'd show you my various Davroses. Yeah, the prototype one's a really interesting one to have. My favourite Davros is Michael Wisher generally. I think the officially released version is the better. I think those opaque orange panels really let down the prototype version. So even though I slightly prefer the prototype's face wash, overall the release figure I like better. My original Terry Malloy Davros I have a lot of affection for. As I was saying before, this is how the face was done. That's basically what the face was like, that sort of dark but fairly human looking flesh tones, compared to this very sort of sickly, jaundiced, sort of yellowy tone. He does look noticeably... I really like they've got this sort of black dribble. I think that's a really nice feature, because that was missing on the original one. I think that's such a memorable thing. It's like, what's he been eating that he's just dribbling? I bet his toothbrush is disgusting. Oh, actually, I forgot this the first time around on the last video. I was going to show you the box. I had one thing I want to say about the box of this figure before I go. Just give me a second. So yeah, the packaging in general I quite like. This sort of thing they've got with the colour coding. Each Doctor has their own colour. That's quite fun. Sylvester McCoy's purple. They've got a lot of blurb on the back about the story and all that stuff, and Davros and what's going on with him. And the inside has this really quite beautiful background. It might not show that well on the camera, unfortunately. Maybe I'll open it up. But basically, it's got this lovely background that's been done for it. That is basically the inside of the Dalek mothership. But here's the problem. So the figures nowadays come sort of behind this bubble. The bubble is glued to the back card, which means it's impossible to take it out without ripping this, and they're gorgeous. It feels really like wrong to be tearing this lovely background to get my figure out. I mean, I guess this is just the way that they've got to be done for, I don't know, I don't really understand the reasons. Possibly to use less plastic because it's just this one bit instead of an inside bit and then an outside window. I kind of get the idea, but it seems a shame. I know he used to my knowledge, Al Duar himself does these little dioramas. He certainly used to. Like the really nice ones, and they're lovely, but you kind of have to rip them to bits to get the figure out. That's kind of my biggest, and I mean, you know, I keep the boxes for these in the loft, so it's not like I'd be gazing at them longingly. It just seems a little bit of a shame. But yeah, if that's the biggest negative I can find, honestly, it's the only negative I will say I don't know how much this costs. It might be a bit on the expensive side, possibly, in which case that could also be a negative. It's a decent set. If you missed this the first time around, it's most definitely going to, and you wanted to get it, it's going to be cheaper getting this new in the shop than it is trying to buy one second hand, because second hand you're looking at like a couple of £100, I think. I don't know. It's a lot. It's too much second hand. New, it's not. I don't know. It's going to be however much it is. But yeah, if you fancy that, get one. If you don't. But yeah, that's the end of the video. I know it's a little bit chaotic, a bit all over the place. That tends to be the case with these videos I make when I'm reviewing figures. I never script these, it's just kind of off the cuff. A little bit, you know, disorganised, but I mean, that's why you've got your sort of more sort of professional quality reviewers out there. You got your Batman Marches, you got your Gallifrey Customs. They're doing the sort of the serious reviews where you get really good turnarounds and nice well photographed things. Here with me, you're just getting me just rambling, but it's nice, it's cozy. I hope you enjoyed coming and looking at some figures with me. Join me again soon-ish if I have anything else to review. Join me again sooner-ish if, you know, because I make other stuff as well. I don't know if you'd enjoy it, but you might, I don't know. But yeah, that's it. Bye.